Mike, it's a pleasure to be down here with you and Pat and all the gang. Doggone, this is a terrific organization. I got in here a little early today, and I wanted to know what I was going to do, and I asked where Mike lived. They pointed out his house. And I went up and knocked on the door, and Pat come to the door. I said, Mike Hogsang live here? She said, yeah, bring him in. Hey, these people know you pretty well, man. Oh, golly. Well, anyhow, like I say, it's a delight to be here with you, and I have been with the fertilizer folks for many years. And when I come out, I got to dress up real good. You like this coat, girls? Isn't this kind of nice? I dress good because it's not easy being a sex symbol for fertilizer. And I don't know whether you noticed my ring or not. I'm awful proud of that. I got it off my grandfather on his deathbed. He sold it to me. I wrote him a check for it. Scared me when that check cleared, I'll tell you. I'm here tonight for one reason, to have fun with you. Test your sense of humor. See if you still know how to laugh. By golly, you got to keep that sense of humor, folks, and enjoy life every day and have fun, because you're going to be dead a long time. So that's what I believe. So we enjoy ourselves. I pity the poor folks that's forgotten how to laugh. Doggone, they're to be pitied. So we hope we don't have anybody like that here tonight. We drove across here, like I say, and it was just a terrific trip. I fly so much. Generally, last summer I came through here, I flew on Air Wisconsin. Any of you fly that? Boy, that's a real thrill, I'll tell you. Oh, it was something else. And the plane never did get very high off of the ground, and I couldn't figure out what was the matter. When I landed, I found out they was spraying crops all the way. But I tell you, like I say, you can have some wild experiences. I got on a plane in Indianapolis, and I was flying to Atlanta, Georgia, and we hit one of the worst thunderstorms I'd ever seen in my life. That plane bounced all over the sky, went every which way, and the stewardess was trying to serve lunch through all of this. She brought mine over to me and said, "You want your lunch, mister?" Well, I said, "Lady, just put mine directly into that sick bag there. There ain't no use of me handling it at all." You meet some of the nicest people on airplanes, though. You know, a DC-9, now that's a jet where they got 3 seats on one side of the aisle, 2 seats on the other side. I always sit in that middle seat of that cluster of 3 so I can visit both directions. I'm friendly as a wet dog. I sat in that middle seat there one time. Catholic priest come in and sat down next to me. Nice fella. We visited about this, that, and the other. Just before the plane got ready to take off, last minute in run a hippie. Oh, now I don't mean this was just a long-haired boy. We've all got those. This was one of them dyed-in-the-wool hippies. Remember them? He looked like a Jack, you know. Walked like a Jill. Smelled like a John. He had one of them great big beards come way out here, and then he had an afro hairdo on top of that. And he sat down right away. He started on me. He said, "Mister, us young folks don't know what to do in life these days." He said, "Now take me." He said, "What can I make of myself?" And I looked at him. I said, "What about a throw rug?" Oh, he didn't like that very well. And that Catholic priest just kept sitting there glaring at that hippie, you know. He knew darn well that hippie was an atheist. He knew that hippie didn't even believe in bingo. You know. And the hippie was sitting there reading his paper, Pretty soon he reached across me and tapped the Catholic priest. He said, "Father, what causes arthritis?" Well, boy, that priest had been waiting on something like this. He said, "I'll tell you, boy, what causes arthritis." He said, "It's running around all hours of the night with women and smoking and drinking." He said, "That's what causes arthritis." Well, the hippie said, "I was just wondering, I was reading here where the Pope's got it." Haven't we had the darndest weather this year? I'm telling you, I've never seen anything like it. Did you folks have that cold weather down here right before Christmas? Wasn't that a dandy? Oh boy. It's so dang cold up there in northern Indiana. I looked out in my field one day, and there was 2 beagle hounds out there, had a set of jumper cables trying to get a rabbit started. Son of a gun was locked right there, you know. And then it turned around last summer and we got the heat. Wasn't that something? I think that's the hottest summer I ever remember. Oh, it was hot up there. It was so hot there one day, a bus pulled up in that little town there, and a good-looking heavy lady got off. And she was so hot, she had 2 men sticking to her. You had to be there. It was... Oh, it was hot. I looked out in my field there one day. 2 of my old cows was laying on their back giving themselves a shower. But I'll tell you, we had a time up there. It was one of those hot days. I never will forget it. One of the farmers up there had a load of hogs on his truck, and he was heading into market with them. Well, his truck broke down out on the highway, and he couldn't get that thing started. He couldn't fix it. He didn't have any baling wire or nothing, and he didn't know what to do. He tried to hitchhike, and nobody'd pick him up. Pretty soon, along come a bus, big bus, you know. Well, he jumped out in the road and hailed that thing down, and that bus driver stopped and opened the door, and this farmer crawled on, and he paid his fare, and he sat down right across the aisle from an uppity woman. Now, you've seen that kind, haven't you? You know, sat there. Looked like she'd been weaned on a pickle. Well, it was hot in that bus. And that farmer had some hog manure on his boots. And that got to gaining on this woman. Finally, she couldn't handle no more of it. She looked at him and said, "It looks like they'd run a special bus for farmers with hog manure on their boots." Farmer looked at her and said, "They do, lady. You're on the wrong bus." I went to school, northern Indiana there, regardless of what you think. Went to a little red schoolhouse up there. Of course, they tore that down, and now they got a big schoolhouse that's in the red. Pretty bad, too. But you know, in that little old schoolhouse, I learned everything I needed to know, reading, writing, and arithmetic. I know I come to school one morning about 10:30, late. That teacher nailed me. She said, "Boy, what do you mean coming to school 10:30 in the morning?" She got ready to put me in the corner, you know. I stood in the corner so dang much I got wall-eyed. I said, "Now, teacher, before you do that, let me explain why I'm late, and then you be the judge." I said, "Last night in the middle of the night, we thought we heard somebody in our chickens. So Dad jumped up, grabbed his double-barrel shotgun, and out he went to the chicken house. Now, he didn't have time to dress. He just pulled on his gum boots, had a pair of long underwear on, and he went out there, eased up to that chicken house, eased the door open, stuck the barrel of that gun in there. Then he leaned forward to see if there's anybody in there. Now, you know what happens when you lean forward with a pair of long underwear on. That trap door gaps open in the back. Well, now, what Dad didn't know was our old dog went out there with him. And when Dad was in that awkward position, our old dog cold-nosed him. When he did, Dad squeezed both triggers on that double-barrel shotgun. Teacher, you wonder why I'm late this morning? Why, at 3 o'clock we is still cleaning chickens. These were poor times, hard times I'm talking about. Some of you out there remember them. And I knew right then that I was going to have to get some jobs off of the farm there to make ends meet. Well, that was about the time when Rural Electric came out. Oh, what a great day that was when they lit us farmers up. It was terrific. Some of you remember that. And I know I had an idea, because right at that time when they brought out electricity, they brought out that electric vacuum cleaner. Oh, a broom with a stomach. So I said, I'm going to sell them things. I got me a sample, and out I went the first day, all ready to go. Going to make $1 million. So I knew I had to have a gimmick to sell that darn thing. So I took along with me a sack of garbage. I had some chicken feathers in there and ashes and little hog lard, and some coffee grounds and stuff. And I dumped it on this woman's living room rug, all over there, then skated through it. I thought that woman would die. I said, lady, don't you worry. Every bit of this stuff my sweeper won't pick up. I'll eat. Boy, was I full when I left. They didn't have any electricity. Well, I went on to the next house real quick. I went up and knocked on the door. Somebody said, come in. Well, I thought that was a little unusual, but I pushed the door open, set my stuff down in there, looked around, there was nobody in the room. There's just a parrot sitting on a perch there and a Doberman pinscher. That darn dog was like this. Boy, he's ready to jump on me, I said, is there anybody home? The parrot said, come in. Well, that didn't do, I looked around. This dog was getting ready to leave. I said, is there anybody home? Parrot said, come in. I said, you stupid bird, can't you say anything but come in? Parrot said, yeah, sick him. Well, I got out of the vacuum cleaner business right then. That was enough. I started laying carpets for people. I thought that was kind of nice, but darn if I didn't get in a jam with that. I just finished a tack-down job there, wall to wall, for a lady, and I kind of backed up to admire my work and looked out in the center, and there was a big lump there in the rug. Well, I felt up here, and sure enough, my cigarettes is gone. I said, oh, boy, how about that? Well, I didn't want to take the carpet up just for that. Nobody in the room, so I crawled out there with a mallet and just beat that flat, And I went out in the kitchen to get my tools. There laid my cigarettes on the table. About that time, the woman of the house come in and said, say, have you seen my cat? I figured I had to get work elsewhere. I went up to the old department store we had up in town there, and I got a job there. They put me in ladies ready to wear. And the boss called all us boys together the first day, and he said, "Now, boys, that little booth over there, that's where the women change their clothes." And he said, "If I catch any of you guys a-peeking over the top of that thing, I'm going to fire you immediately." Well, after I lost that job. Well, anyhow, you know, a lot of people want to know where I get my material for these speeches and what I do on radio and Prairie Farmer. Does any of you folks ever read that column of mine in Prairie Farmer? Let's see the hands out there. Oh, for goodness sake, look at that. I write that stuff, and a lot of times I wonder, does anybody ever read it? Well, I'm glad to know that. I actually get my material for things like that from people. Well, you'd be surprised what I've heard here tonight already. I parked my car out there earlier, and some guy come around the corner of it, hit his shin on the bumper. Boy, I got some material off of that guy. But we got folks up there in Cass County now that are just funny, and we got some senior citizens up there that just tickle me to death because they tell you like it is, you know. We got Uncle Charlie Pugh up there. He's 97 years old, and he has fun with everybody. He run into the doctor's office the other day, and he said, Doc, I want to have my sex drive lowered." Well, Doc said, "Uncle Charlie, you're 97 and want to have your sex drive lowered?" Uncle Charlie said, "Yeah." He says, "It's all up here." And we got Aunt Min there, too. Let me tell you about her. She's 92. And there's another funny one. Oh, my gosh. She called the sheriff up on the telephone one night. Said, Sheriff, there's 50 dogs in my backyard." Well, the sheriff said, "Are they mad?" Well, she said 48 of them are. Got one lady explaining this stuff to her husband. You folks laugh at it tonight. Figure it out tomorrow. I ain't got time. We got Peru, Indiana up there close to us. That's Circa City, USA, Peru. They quarter all of those wild animals up there. Don't you know a big elephant got loose from them up there one time, wandered down there in Aunt Min's garden. Yeah, got down there in her garden and started pulling up her cabbage, you know, with its trunk and eating it. Well, Aunt Min squinted her eyes out there, couldn't see too well, didn't know what it was. She called the sheriff up on the phone again, said, "Sheriff, there's a big animal out here in my garden." Well, the sheriff said, "What's it doing?" Well, she says, "It's pulling up my cabbage with its tail." Well, the sheriff said, "What's it doing with it?" Aunt Min said, "Never mind, you wouldn't believe it if I told you." Oh. Well, we got by the hunting season pretty well this year so far. Us farmers take a big chance. These city folks come out there and shoot at anything, you know. My gollies, like you, we tried to label everything, you know. Painted the word cow on the cows and hog on the hog. They riddled my tractor. It said John Deere on the side of it. So they shot that full of holes there. But you know one thing, I tried a little hunting with a bow and arrow. Did any of you ever try hunting bow and arrow? That's a sport. I say you can get good at that too. I know I took one of the neighbor boys and stood him up against the barn there, put an apple on his head, and I backed up 200 yards. and I drawed that bow tight, let her fly. He'd have been 27. This spring, I believe it was. I even went down in Africa doing some hunting down there, but I didn't hunt down there very much. I was completely taken to them cannibals down there. That's a weird group of folks, those cannibals. I run on to a couple of them guys, cannibals, right in the clearing there, and they was stirring a big pot of stuff there and talking. And this one cannibal said to the other, he said, I don't like my mother-in-law. And the other one said, well, forget her, just eat the noodles. But I decided if I was going to hunt, I better get at it right, So I went out and bought me a gun. Now, it wasn't a new one. I bought it off of a wealthy widow. She'd only used it once. I went down by my creek one day, and I had one bullet in that gun. Now, listen to this. But one bullet's enough if you're good. And I looked up in the tree, and there was 12 quail on a limb sitting there. Well, I took careful aim, and I shot. With that one bullet, I split the limb of that tree. When that limb come back together, it caught the legs of all 12 of them quail. And that bullet went on through and killed a big wild turkey flying overhead. Now, the reason I say it was big, when it fell, it landed on a deer and killed the deer. And that discharge from that gun was so strong, it knocked me backwards in my creek. When I come up, my pants was so full of fish, it busted off my 2 suspender buttons, and they killed 2 wild ducks flying overhead. And it wasn't a good day for hunting, neither. Oh. I grew up in Indiana there on the farm during a depression. Not this one, the other one. Some of you guys out there, I see you sitting out there, remember that other depression. People today think they're poor. Boy, they don't know nothing. Terrible. My dad's hearing aid was on a party line. Oh, I'll tell you, it was rough times there. We didn't have any electricity in the house. And no water. I know I had to go down over the hill. We had a spring there. And I'd dip a bucket up there of water, and I'd carry it in the house, and we'd take a dipper, and that was our drinking water. Some of you folks, young folks, hard to believe, but that's true. I know one day my mother sent me down for a bucket of water. That was my job. I got down there and got ready to dip up a bucket of water out of that spring, and I looked, and there was a big old snake laying there, curled around. Well, I'm allergic to snakes. I threw that bucket in the air, and back to the house I went. My mother says, "Where's the water, boy?" I said, "Mom, there was a great big snake laying there in that spring." "Why," she said, "shame on you. Don't you know that snake was just as scared of you as you was of him?" Well, I said, in that case, that water wouldn't have been fit to drink anyhow. Now, I know a lot of you women are sitting out there right now wondering how I went out with the girls when I was a teenage boy. Well, I tell you, I mowed a pretty good swath down through Indiana there. I had several girls on the string. Should have had some of them on a leash. Well, I had some ugly ones. I don't know where I got them. I had one girl there so danged ugly. Well, I know I took her to the beach one day, and the tide wouldn't even come in. Oh, she was homely. She just didn't have anything going for her, I'll tell you. She was bow-legged. Oh, my gosh, you don't see any bow-legged girls anymore. This one was. They said she got that way from hitchhiking rides on oil trucks. She was bow-legged, and I was knock-kneed, you know.
And whenever we stood together, we spelled okay. Now, I didn't have all ugly ones. Don't misunderstand me. I had some good-looking ones. I had one girl one night, I'll never forget it, because it's kind of a night like this, it's a summer night. I had her in my car, and we was up on a hill overlooking the town. There's a moon out and a soft breeze. You had all them summer sounds, you know. And that girl looked over at me with a look that you could have poured on a waffle. And she said, "Tom, if you'd get the top down on this car, I believe I'd kiss you." Boy, by gosh, in about a half hour I had that top down. I could have got it down quicker, but I didn't have a convertible. Then it started raining. Oh, just a pouring down. And we headed for home. And we got to her place. And she said, "Now, you can't go on home in this rain. You'll just get yourself soaking wet." Said, "You have to come and stay at my house all night." I said, "All right." I went in there, got in there. She said, "Now, we're a little cramped for space here. You're going to have to sleep with the baby." Well, I'd never done that. But I crawled up there in that crib with this little baby. Curled up with him. Slept there all night. I got up the next morning and I thought, by gosh, I just as well have gone home in that rain. Boy, how that kid sweat, I'll tell you.